Let's take the number 210. Let's take the number 210 and we'll try to find out all the possible factors, all the factors of this number 210. Now, by all the factors we mean that all those whole numbers, all the possible whole numbers which this number, that is 210, is divisible by. Now, we know that for any given number, 1 is the smallest factor. For any given number, 1 will be the smallest factor, and that number per se, that number itself, will be the largest, the greatest factor. So we'll put here 1. We are just writing the factor list. We are making a list of factors possible. So you have 1, and the largest one will be 210. There is no scope of any other factor smaller than 1. That is, there can be no other factor smaller than 1, and there can be any other factor greater than 210, because this will be the largest, greatest factor of 210. So the first one is 1 and 210, as we have shown here in the list. So 1 times 210 is 210. Now let's see for 2. Will this number be divisible by 2? Since this number has 0 at its units place, and we know that any number having 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 at the units place will be divisible by 2. So yes, this number will be divisible by 2. The question is by how much? So divide 210 here by 2. So 2 times 1 is 2 minus, we got 1, we put 0 here, we put 0, and 5, right? So this is, you have 105. So 2 times 105 will be 210, right? So in this case, 2 and 105, 2 is a smaller one of these two. So just write 2 here, write 2 here, and write 105 here, 105 here. Since 105 was a greater one and 2 was a smaller one, so we have, put in the list in this way. So at this end, we'll go on in ascending order, and at this end, we'll go on descending order. Now let's check for 3. Is this number divisible by 3? So in order for any number to be divisible by 3, the sum of the digits of that number should be divisible by 3. And in this case, you can see that you have 210, you have 2, 1 and 0 digits. So if you add 2 plus 1 plus 0, 2 plus 1 plus 0, you'll get 3. And since 3 is divisible by 3 itself, therefore this 210 will be divisible by 3. The question is by how much? So just divide it here. Just divide it here. So you have 210 divided by 3. So it will be 3, 7, 21 is gone, and then you have 0 left, so 0. Right? So you have 3 times 70, and this will be 210, right? So you'll write 3 here, and then you'll write 70 here. Now, what about 4? Is this number divisible by 4? So you know that in order to check whether any number is divisible by 4 or not, you check that the last 2 digits, from the units place and at the tens place. So the number formed by the tens and the units place, so in this case you have 10. If this number will be divisible by 4, then this whole number will be divisible by 4. So in this case you have 10, and we know that 10 is not divisible by 4, right? You want to check it, you can check. 4 to 8 minus, you are getting remainder 2, right? So this is not divisible by 4. So we'll have to escape 4. We'll have to escape 4. So 4 is not the option. What about 5? Is this number divisible by 5? Yes, this number will be divisible by 5 because it has 0 at its units place. And by how much? So 210 and then divide by 5. You will have 4, 5, 20. This is 1 and then 0. This is 2 and then 1, 42. So 5 times 42 will be 210. So put 5 here and 42 here. What about 6? And in order to check whether any number is divisible by 6, you know that the condition is that if that number is divisible by 2 and if that number is divisible by 3 also at the same time, right? By 2 and by 3, then that number will be divisible by 6. So in this case you have 210 and we know that 210 is divisible by 2 and 210 is divisible by 3. Therefore, it will be divisible by 6 also. The question is by how much? So 210, and if you divide it by 6, you have 6, 3, 80 minus 3. This is 0, 5, 30. Right? So this will be 6 times 35 will give you 210. Since 6 was a smaller one and 35 was the greater one, right? Now, what about 7? Is this number divisible by 7? And we don't have any shortcut to check whether any number is divisible by 7 or not. We'll have to just divide it. So 210 and divided by 7, you have 3. 21. This is gone. All left with 0 and 0. Right? So you have 7 times 30 will be 210. So 7 is the smaller one in this case and 30 is the greater one in this case. Now, what about 8? So you have 210. If you divide it by 8, you have 2, 16, you have 5 left, and then you have 0 here. So 8, 6, 48. This is left by 2. So is there any hope? I mean, 210 is not divisible by 8. So 8 is not the option. 8 is not the option. This is gone. This is gone. Now, what about 9? Is this number divisible by 9? So for 9, check it here. 210 divided by 9, you have 9 2 times 18 and then minus 3 and then you have 0 here. And I mean, there is a shortcut way to find whether any number is divisible by 9 or not. You just add those digits, all the digits present in that number, and if the sum of those digits is divisible by 9, then that number itself will be divisible by 9. So you have 2 plus 1 plus 0 will give you 3, and 3 is not divisible by 9. 3 is not divisible by 9 because 9 is a greater number. Therefore, 9 is also not an option. 9 is also not an option. 9 is also not an option. Now, what about 10? What about 10? Is 210 divisible by 10? Yes, of course, because it has 0 at the units place. Therefore, this number will be divisible by 10, and this will be 10 times 21. This will be 10 times 21. It will give you 210. Since 10 is a smaller one, you put 10 here. I think yes. So 10 here, right? You have 10 here, and then you have 21 here. You have 21 here. Now, what about 11? What about 11? Is 210 divisible by 11? So 210, and you have 11. So 11, 1, this is gone, 11. And there is no scope that this will be, because of course it has 0 at its end, so this number will not be divisible and by 11. Even if you want to check it, then you can check here. You'll get 10, right? And so this number is not divisible by 11 because you will get here like 0. So this is 100. So this is not going to be divisible by 11. And what about 12? What about 12? So 210 divisible by 12. So 12, 1, and you have 12 here. This will be 9, 90. This will be 7, 84. So not possible, right? So when you leave it this one, that 12 is not the option. What about 13? What about 13? So if you divide 210 by 13, so this is 13 and this is 8, you have 0 here, and this will be 5, 6, this will be 78. 2 is a remainder, it's not divisible. So even this is not the option. What about 14? What about 14? So 14, when you divide 210 by 14, you have 1, you have 4, minus, you have 7, and you have 0 here, right? And if you do 5, then 14 times 5 will be 70, right? So in this case, this is divisible by 14. So 14 times 15 will be 210. Since 14 is a smaller one and 15 is the greater one. Now there is no other possibility of any other factor, because you have just reached here. This is a 14. Okay, let me take some other color. You have reached to this point where you got 14 and the next one is the 15. So from here you are going in a descending order. From here you are going in a ascending order, right? So you have come to a point where you have got 14 and you have got 15. So though there is no other factor possible, like the bridge is complete, and this is the list. And let me write it again. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 10, and 14. This will be 14, and you have 15, you have 21, you have 30, you have 35, you have 42, you have 70, you have 105, and you have 210.